Welcome back to U.S. Farm Report this Memorial Day weekend. Well, as promised, we have Brian Grady as well as Jim McCormick joining us this weekend. Jim, when we look at the markets this week, we did see some pops. We saw some momentum. Was it supply or was it demand driven this week?
I know. I think a lot of it, well, kind of it depends on which market you're looking at, Tyne. On the bean market, old crop beans, it was probably a little bit of demand driven. China came in and bought at least 2 cargoes of beans. They're buying it off the P&W as a reserve buy because our beans are a little bit better quality. So that was a driver there. So on the demand on the beans, on the other side of the equation, corn and wheat, I think that was more of a supply situation, worried about delayed plantings as well as dryness issues in Russia.
So, Brian, look at the wheat market. It's also been impressive to watch the wheat market as of late. I mean, a couple of weeks ago, we mentioned it, talking about the weather and the impact to Russia's crop. Is that still what's driving this market?
Yeah, I think from a fundamental standpoint, it is time. And on top of the dryness that Jim mentioned, we had the frost and freeze early this month. So, ongoing damage assessments there in terms of how much it means. But really, I'm not sure it changes the market fundamentally as much as it just gave the funds a reason to cover short positions. And we've seen that the money flow has definitely changed over the past 4 to 6 weeks or so in the grain and soy markets.
Well, taking a look at the U.S. crop, a lot of, focus on planting progress. And USDA said as of Sunday, 70% of the corn had been planted. That's up 21 points from the week prior. 52% of soybeans are now planted, Jim. We crossed that halfway point. That was up 17 points in a week. Did that catch the market by surprise?
I think it did a little bit. I mean, I was looking for it to be up pretty big time because the reality is we can get this crop in a lot quicker than we did 5-10 years ago. But yeah, when you look at the average trade guesses to what the actual number was, we were a little bit more aggressive than the trade was thinking. Now the question is how much is going to get done now? The weather, I think right now is a little bit mixed going into the holiday weekend. The traders trying to brace for a very wet Memorial Day weekend, but the 6 to 10 day forecast suggests that maybe we get a better window to maybe get some more stuff planted here at the very end of May. So, still a lot of weather volatility to play out as we try to get the final bit of this crop planted.
Well, Brian, I mean, when you look at where those impressive gains were made, Illinois, corn planting shot up 25 points in a week. Iowa planting there for corn jumped up 21 points in a week. I mean, I knew we had some small windows, but my gosh, did that surprise you just how much progress we had made in a week's time?
Well, those were the key areas where we were lagging on the planting, so they needed to make a jump, and still really wet here across the central corn belt, and that's the critical area. Now, I'm not concerned on acreage. 90 million, I think that USDA projected in March was too low to begin with, and so even if we shave off a few of the corn acres as we get up against the crop insurance planting date, I still think that the acreage number will be up from what the March intentions were when all is said and done.
Well, NOAA also releasing summer outlook, and it suggests below normal rainfall and warmer temps during the summer, especially for the plains and western U.S. region. And so, Jim, I know weather's always a wild card, but as we look at this quick transition to La Nina, is this something that the market's watching?
It's definitely looking at what it's watching, and it's going to really depend on how quick it comes, Stein. Some of the models say we're going to hit this heat and dryness by early part of July. Other models are putting it toward the latter part of August into September. The later that transition comes, the more likely we are going to have trendline yield. So, but yeah, we're going to be, we're in a weather market, traditional weather market. In the spring, we'll probably get a secondary one in July, August as we debate to see if this rain does come. But the other thing to keep in mind is we are looking for a record active hurricane season. So we could still have some dryness issues, but the hurricanes come through the Gulf and go right up the Midwest Mississippi River, which has happened from time to time. That could also solve some of the dryness issues that may start to develop. So we need to keep an eye on that.
Yeah, Brian, I mean, we've made some impressive progress when it comes to the soil moisture profile, especially in your backyard, looking at parts of Iowa that had struggled with moisture. Now it's too much moisture this year. But what areas do you think are in the best shape leading into summer? What areas are in the worst shape?
Oh, I think I'll start with the worst shape because that's right in my backyard, northeast Iowa down into central Iowa. We were really dry. We've received about 10 to 15 inches of rainfall over the past 5 weeks through that area broadly. And so we're sitting in a really good situation right now from a moisture standpoint, actually excessive in some of these areas. But we'll probably need it, as Jim talked about. The key is that transition from neutral conditions to La Nina and when it happens. And as is the case with most things in commodities, timing is everything. And so that'll be critical as we move through the summer. But we're going to need that moisture, increased moisture profile as we move forward, I think, through the growing season here.
All right, well, we've seen some cuts to the production forecast in South America. We'll take a look at that. Plus, cash cattle trade heading into the Memorial Day weekend. We'll talk about that coming up next.